self-publishing nowadays is more accessible than ever, and I urge every photographer out there to make a book at some point, because I think it teaches you a lot about your work, and it teaches you a lot about maybe what you missed in those moments and what you need to still create or document. So
What's happened in the meantime? You've done so many things. You've done a TED Talk. You've you've released a major motion picture, and you've written like how many more books since then?
um, I've written about seven, and worked on about seven books since then. Yeah, books. I
Wow.
mean, publishing and books have been a huge part of, I think, what's made me motivated as a photographer to kind of create, I guess, a voice for myself and my work. It's also just this tangible thing that I think you can always carry that is, to be honest, I think the greatest portfolio you could create, There's something really special about that.
Well, that's interesting because in this book, create like I talk about the final stage of the creative process is you have to get your work out to the world. You can't just leave it on your phone. You can't just leave it on your computer. You're never going to be satisfied. And just having it in digital form is just, that's one way of sharing your work. But putting it in print, putting it on the walls, you
Yeah.
know, is so important. I mean, having books, even if you make your own book, getting it out to other people and getting it in their hands is really important. Obviously, you've really mastered that. That's great. So let's
I don't know
talk.
about in some ways. Yeah.
Well, I know it's always a process, isn't it? I mean, there's a book is like anything. It's a project. It has a lot of work involved, and there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into it. But it's kind of amazing when you're done, right?
And I think it's a lot more approachable for a lot more photographers and creatives than they think. And the idea that a book is this big, enormous process. I mean, it boils down to a good idea, usually a good designer, and some decent text, right? Hopefully. And really, the process of making the book in and of itself is not that challenging. I think that self-publishing nowadays is more accessible than ever, and I urge every photographer out there to make a book at some point, because I think it teaches you a lot about your work, and it teaches you a lot about maybe what you missed in those moments and what you need to still create or document. So yeah, I think it's a worthy endeavor, sure.